Yes, I spoke with Oscar. Not Paul, but I confirmed with Oscar that they would both be here. Going through his 35-page report.
I decided not to. I'll look at it. No, it'll be on screen.
Share screen. Wanna.
At 3 o'clock when we start.
So that's when we. Just see that. Okay. See, back for rum and coke.
And then what would be nice is to actually see the people who are participating or formally subject. If we have.
If they share their screen. Or share their video. Some of them will probably just not or do.
Yeah, but we still see the name. I mean, we only see the tone, but we need to know who it's actually. So that's what we like. We like.
So you reflect the attendees,
Yes.
even the guests
Yeah,
in
in
your
the
minutes. Okay. Yes.
Meeting of the season, what's it called? What's it you last meeting the schedule? The service period, service. Term. The most popular one is on the.
Okay.
Days. Something here. Good, somebody got in here.
And you guys have a little bit extra time coming to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything I need to sign or anything
There's
before I leave?
one thing for
Okay.
Jeremy that needs a signature on it.
Really, everybody's very keen on getting here. 2:57. We got two people, two members here so far.
We may not have a quorum, huh?
Well, three, I think we will have, a quorum,
Oh, okay.
because from what I understand, we've got. Well, Kathy Morse said she's gonna be here. Don Lancer, who I'm assuming will be here. Is Nina?
I'm on Zoom.
Nina?
Yes, I'm on Zoom. Yes, I can.
You can, okay. We've only got two people here so far, two members, so
Mhm.
I have to wait till we at least get a quorum. Do you know, is Don Lancel coming?
I don't know.
Okay, so I know Joan Trotter is coming. She's going to be a little late. Kathy War is going to be here. I don't know about Zone 2 stewards. I'm assuming they'll be here. So I have to wait till we get a quorum before we can even go further.
So Don and I are the only ones here? Oh,
Yeah, and me.
no, and you, of course,
Yes.
and you, of course.
So we got three so far.
Mhm.
So,
Well, you
Yes,
said
right.
two, that's what confused me.
yeah, so that's good. Yeah. Good with those sunglasses, you look like some great singer there.
I guess you guys think, you see who comes in, but you could sit on the end there. That way we don't have to turn around and crane our necks. Yeah, and then you have a mic that way, so you can, those two last seats there. Don't be scared. Yeah, you're okay.
I was
Yes,
thinking
you-
maybe sit like that, so you can go outside anytime. you want, right?
You could run away. We're gonna make it difficult.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, see what happens. See, Oscar gets a call there. Back in.
They'll still be able to hear.
There's a capital that makes 4. We need 7. And I know Joan thought it should be out.
Regs, or that you have to have form even for committee meetings.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was looking at, but apparently I played with some stuff. Yes, that it was being asked for. Because we have to be close.
So if we vote on recommendation.
Yeah, right, so we need the, yeah, that's why. So these are good ones, 4. Where's the zone 2 stewards? This is talking about their zone. No, she's traveling. No, she's zone 1. Yeah, she's traveling. Do we have any plans? No, just us two, yeah. Okay.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing well.
You?
Hi, Joe. Hey. Oh, there comes one zone.
You were busy. You've been doing a lot of that lately. Yeah. Nice to meet you. No, Joan will be here. Yes, Harvard.
You got the good seat. You're not in the.
I need one more. No, the memory is coming. So, okay.
Memory of names.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so. Are you two? 6.
Me back again.
Oh, no.
You can always.
When, how long, she said she's gonna come in late, right? She knows how late?
Didn't say how late. Said she was coming late, but she'd be here.
She could, I mean, even if you can get somebody on speakerphone and they're here for roll call or something like that, you can count them as here.
Lansford was coming in. Very good. Okay, very good. We'll make it. Okay, we'll make it.
I know.
So we've got, we've got everybody's 1, 2, 3, 4,
Don?
7. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5, 6. Oh. Yes.
Okay, is everybody ready to start? Are we all good? We've got a quorum, so we can continue. So Linda Cook, Rick Lawrence, Jolene Hesht, Lisa Tafoya, and Solveig cannot attend today's meeting. 2 of them are out of country traveling, and the others have other appointments. So, but we have a quorum, so we've got myself, Diane Durawa is here, Jim Shaw, Don Lanslittle, Nina White on Zoom, Don Elvanger, Kathy Waugh, and I believe Joan Trotter is joining us later. Okay.
That's what she said last night.
And remember, we have to use the mic, okay? We've got one spare one if anybody needs one. Here, do you want this, Don? Okay. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is approving the minutes of April 20th. Would anyone like to move to accept or to approve the minutes? Do we have a second? Yeah, okay. Everyone here in favor? Everyone, okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. And Nina, you can unmute yourself anytime, okay? So if you need to say, anytime
Okay.
you want to jump in.
Thank you.
Okay, so next item is a liaison report. Cheryl?
Yes, at our last meeting, the directors approved the remediation work on the 17 stump locations that we had from the storm damage. That proposal has been approved. We also approved a work order or a proposal to remove the trees along the tennis court. Sure. The 17 stumps, 158,000. I don't know, remember if there was some dollars with it, but basically 100. It's in the newsletter as well. And the courts are $6,640 for removing the trees and the water along the tennis courts. So those two items for grounds were approved. They also approved work that needs to be done on the Dunbarton Pool. So those things were all approved in the last executive meeting. Are there any questions about those or anything? Okay.
Okay, thanks, Cheryl. Homeowner comments. You gentlemen here, do you have anything to, no, just nothing. No. We can take a mic from one of these, yeah. So if you can introduce yourself and then we can just pull it.
I have a question in that I'm kind of new at this. I've been here since 1977. This is my first committee meeting,
Whoa,
but
that's very good. Welcome.
for the minutes and so forth,
Can you speak into?
can you get the minutes before the meeting? Can someone that's not on the committee get the previous minutes?
Yes, it's in the board packet. It's usually in the board packet. It comes in there. So that's where we do it. Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay, then I think there's no other, anyone else on Zoom, correct? Excellent. Okay. So let's bring up then the work. It's nobody, yeah, it doesn't look like anyone else. Okay, can we bring up Dusty, can we bring up that work order report? Oh, yeah, sure. Carol Duke entered the waiting room. It says up there. So, yeah. 3 people entered 2 people. So let's just check who came in. Okay. So, okay. So we got Carol Duke here. Is she, we don't, and Andy connecting to. Is Carol Duke actually being able to connect?
Her camera's off.
Her camera's off, but there's no, I can't see
Oh.
any.
I don't know. It says that it looks,
Let's-
the 3 dots are going, so it looks like she's connecting.
Right, not to worry. Yeah. Carol Duke, are you there? Can you hear us? Guess we have to just make sure that she can hear us, so. Okay, yeah, sure. She's off camera, but now she's getting on. Nope.
So she's a participant, but she's off camera.
Okay, and she's not, okay, fine. All right, so if we can bring up the work order report, then Dusty, that'll be helpful. Okay, so you all received the work order report. Does anyone have any questions on that? Don?
That's just a question just on the first one, and same question would follow on the work order. It's $158,000. We as the committee saw and approved that last month.
No, that was just a board decision. Didn't come before the committee at all.
So there are things going straight to the board without the committee seeing them.
With this, in this instance, yes, it did. That was the
It's
board
more than one
decision.
instance, correct?
Do you want to just comment on that one? No, you shouldn't be turning it on and off.
With the storm damage, the agreement was that the board made the decision that it would look at what was damaged and what needed to be done, and it didn't need to go through the whole process of zone steward of each zone by zone. So we had proposals from Carson, and the board looked at these issues, looked at the areas, and made the decision.
Thank you. I just wanted to have that on the record. Again,
Yeah, because you're questioning whether, why are you questioning why it didn't come before the committee, or just wanting to make a point
just a point.
that it went direct, that the board approved this
Correct.
without going
And I
to the committee?
understand the rationale behind
Yes,
it at that
right.
point.
Okay, okay. Any other questions on the work order report? I have one then. I guess this one of them is the irrigation system. Oscar, it says we have a problem with the material, to locate a problem with the control wire problem, decoder, moisture sensor. And have you got any further on that? Yes.
Yes, it's been resolved. It was a moisture sensor. There was a problem.
So it has been resolved. So that's closed then. Is that work order is being closed? Okay, Paul, I had another question about the tree. You inspected 1213 Vanderbilt. It says, please inspect the tree to the side of the home. It's leaning towards the home. And I think we had spoken about that, I think with the.
Correct. We inspected the tree and we sent a proposal over to the office for that tree's removal.
Is that something that has to be done immediately?
No,
No.
no. It's
So
it's a dead tree,
is it,
but there's no immediate risk. But the tree's dead. So we
But-
sent a proposal over for its removal.
and do we have a report on that? Was a report also sent giving that information?
I
or-
didn't send a report. I just sent an email with the proposal.
So we don't have the proposal, so we would have to, yeah, so how do we move forward? Do we want to move forward on that since, I guess, so you must have just received the proposal, so we weren't able to get that for this meeting, yeah.
So I'm still getting used to, the proposals corresponding with the arborist report. I don't know if some items just need to be communicated via email so that I have that understanding so I could pass that on with the board, or that everything needs a report. So I was going to check with Paul prior to this proposal going to the board for their final review.
Now, this is the tree in zone 5, Don, 1213. This is the tree in zone 5 that is dead. And we have a proposal for that. So I guess the decision is it's in the work order, 1213 up there, 1213 Vanderbilt. So I'm wondering if it's not in danger of falling, can it be done then? Are you saying it can be done when you work on the zone 5, when we do the zone 5 tree, or is it report, or is that too late?
I mean, ideally, these would be trees that we would want to catch during the tree walks.
Yes.
And could wait for that proposal and
Right.
be included in that report. But when we get the work orders like this,
Yes.
I try to address them immediately. So I did create a proposal for that tree.
Okay, so I'm wondering if we can just approve that proposal since it's in zone 5, it's dead, it's in danger of according to Paul, it's not an emergency, but since we do know about it, we have a proposal. Maybe we can just, when we see the proposal, I can send it to you. And if we agree, then we can approve it. How do you feel? Are you okay with that, Don? I think that might be the best way. Yeah, but we will, that's what we're saying. That's when I say approve, I'm not saying we're approving it to pay, but we're approving it to submit to the board. So so as long as we have 2 of our zone stewards and myself and Paul and Dawn, then we can just do that. And then just move forward since we have the proposal now.
And you mean by email?
Yes, we can do it by email. So that's what we've just agreed on. Is that?
No, you asked.
Can you please tell us what that process is about that 1213 tree removal?
Yeah, we had a homeowner who advised the office that this tree was dead and was in danger of falling on a house. So Paul went out and inspected the tree. He says, yes, indeed, it is dead, but it is not in danger of falling. But because of the urgency and the homeowner being very concerned about it, I guess the proposal was submitted to the office and it was just submitted. So it was in zone 5, and rather than waiting for the next committee meeting or for the next zone 5 walk, that Dawn and I have agreed that, we can send us the proposal, we look at it and then recommend that to the board that we approve it or don't approve it, whatever the case might be. Yeah.
So are we doing that today?
We've just agreed that. So we've just agreed on in the minute. So yeah.
Shouldn't the committee agree to that?
Well, sure. Do you want, if the committee wants to agree to that or not? Yeah, sure. How do you feel about it? Do you have a problem?
I have no idea where the tree is or what it looks like.
It's 1216, it's 1213 Vanderbilt.
I move that we accept Christina and Don's evaluation and approval for that tree and the removal. Pending your formal.
Yeah, we will review it, obviously. I mean, since we've got the proposal, we'll just move forward with that now, rather than waiting another month in case something does happen.
Second.
You're about to say something?
You both have seen it, right, Christina and Don? You
can I
both have
speak?
seen it?
Yes, go ahead.
On the tree is probably rock throwing distance from where I live. I'm going to look at the tree when this meeting's over.
Yeah,
So
that's fine.
we're-
Nina, you had a question?
Yeah, sorry.
Nina, did you
Yeah.
have a question?
Don just answered it. So not both of you have seen the tree. I prefer you both see it before we vote on it.
We can't hear you, actually.
Okay.
Repeat that.
Yep, can't hear.
Okay. I just would prefer not to vote now.
Hold on. Oh, okay, we just adjusted the volume. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I prefer not to vote until you both have seen it. That's all. And I know there's a proposal on the table, so I'm just saying. I'm
That's
gonna
what
abstain.
we're voting to, I guess we don't really need to vote for this one, Don, to be quite honest. It's just basically the 2 zone stewards will be going out there looking at it. It's finally the board's decision in any case.
I'm just looking at it that you're going to approve the expenditure of money.
Mhm.
And it's not it's not an approval by the committee, it's an approval by 2, which is not a majority. So I thought.
All right,
we would-
fine.
we would-
Okay, so
the
yeah.
committee would give you the authority to do that on a vote of
Okay,
2.
so we've got a motion from Don, second by for us to go and Don Elvanger is seconding. All in favor? Nina?
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain from this. Because you
what-
haven't both seen it, that's why. Sorry.
Abstain, okay. All right. Okay. Oh, that took long. All right.
What is the resolution of
We've all agreed except for Nina who's abstained. Okay, the motion was restate the motion.
The individual approval of the expenditure by the chairman and one person without the committee's awareness or approval is just not acceptable. Here, I've moved to give the authority to the chairman and one member of the committee on this one tree at 1213 Vanderbilt, so that they can look at it, say yay or nay. And now they do it with the committee's approval, not just the approval of two independent of the committee, even though they're committee members. So it was authorizing them the power to make that decision, which keeps the committee and the control as it should be.
So so you're in favor and Nina's abstained. So that's okay? Good? Yeah, we good. Okay. Thank you. Okay, that's it. I guess we've got another drainage issue. It looks like at 804 Elmhurst, correct? And so we're waiting for an evaluation on that one. Okay. Okay, so that's down to Oscar to provide us with the evaluation. All right. Okay, great. All right, so moving on to the Carson report. Update on Oscar, please.
Okay, so
He's got his-
the INF sprays is scheduled for May 30.
The what, sorry, the what?
Insect and fungus spray is scheduled for May 30.
Okay,
And deep root watering for some of the trees is also on May 30 to get done.
okay,
Watering schedule is 3 days, turf, netafim, and drip. And it's 2 sets of 3 days. It's either Sunday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, or Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
okay,
Zone details, we finished zone 1, zone 2, zone 3.
Are we talking about the Howe Avenue berm
The pruning.
detail? So, yes,
The pruning,
the pruning detail.
yes.
And that's, okay, so repeat what you just said, pruning detail.
So we finish zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, 1/4 of zone 4. We finished zone 5, and we on the last quarter of zone 6, and zone 7 has been done. So that means next week, we're gonna start over on all those zones again.
So the pruning detail you've said has been completed in zones 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7, and it's in process in zones 4 and 6?
Mhm.
Okay. What about the Howe Avenue? Oh, you go ahead.
So on Howe Avenue berm, basically it's including the detail work with the exception that we just need to finish one part of zone 3.
And that's it. And
Yeah,
then
that
that'll
will
be the
be it.
end.
And then,
And that'll be another week, completed in a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
irrigation evaluation, we have done zone 1, 2, 3, and 4. We on half on zone 5. And we have to move on 6 and 7.
So 5, 6, and 7 still has to be done. Irrigation checks.
Correct.
Okay. And the fertilizer with barricade for turf, that's all been done.
All that's
Complete.
been done.
Okay, perfect. Any questions for Oscar?
Oscar, is the drip irrigation going on throughout zone 2?
If it is,
The drip. the
What
drip
about
with-
it?
With the warm weather accenting so quickly, is the irrigation now on in zone 2?
yes, as I mentioned, turf, Netafim and drip are on 3 days.
3 day, okay. Can you tell me the 3 days, is it Wednesday, Sunday that we have the sprinklers?
We have either Sunday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, or Thursdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
Okay.
Basic question, when we say irrigation check, what is the scope of work when we do irrigation check?
It's a irrigation evaluation, so that means we're going through the system, turning all the stations on, making sure they're running properly, making sure if it's any breaks, any leaks, anything that is going on that need to be repaired. That's when we do that, and then we pass the report into that.
Is the work, if there's a repair, is that done on site at that time?
Yes, the work ones get done on right immediately, and then we just request a work order for it.
Okay. Thank you.
And that doesn't cover all the calls that we receive from the homeowners to the office, so that's different.
Yeah, that's extra work.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we're down to now the star of the show, I guess. Grove Zone 2 tree report. And finally, I think we'd be able to see the pictures this time. And
Okay, so we walked zone 2. Per request, we're gonna start putting all the removals in the front of the report, so it may jump around through the zone. The first trees that we're gonna talk about are recommended removals. The first tree is a birch tree in front of 2277. When we were doing the walk, we came upon this tree. And at the base of the tree, we noticed a fair amount of cracking in the soil. And upon inspection, I actually shook the tree and I was able to move it by hand. So this tree's become destabilized. This is a good picture for folks that falling trees is always a big concern with everybody, and what to look for if there's a tree that's become destabilized. Soil cracking is one of the things that I'm always looking for around the base of a tree. And so this is a great photo of what it looks like when we have a tree that's become destabilized at the base of the tree. So for reference, if we do see signs like this around the base of a tree, this is a good one to call in the office and have us take a look at that. But we were able to catch this during the walk. So again, there's nothing that we can do to prop this tree to keep it safe at this point. Roots have become disturbed or are no longer functioning as an anchor. So that this tree needs to be removed before it removes itself. moving on to our next item. This is a cedar tree near 2265 Swarthmore. It's in kind of a narrow island planted with several other redwood trees. The tree, I believe, has just basically out of competition and root space is basically been shaded out by the other trees in the area. And root competition and soil volume space for those roots to develop, I believe, has caused this tree to go into decline. So all of the canopy of this tree, it's a little hard to see because of all the other trees in the area, but basically within that circle area encompasses the entire majority of that tree's canopy. During the walk, when we were looking at this tree, the canopy very thin, quite a bit of dead wood present. That tells me that this tree is in a decline pattern. So the recommendation here is to remove the tree.
Do we have to get a permit for this because it's a big tree, Paul?
Yeah, this would be a tree that would be, we would have to permit through the city. So this would require permitting and for the city of Sacramento to review and approve that tree's removal.
Thank you. Thought you might have to. It looked pretty thin, so.
Yeah, it's over that 24-inch mark. So we would send this evaluation and with our permit request over to the city for them to come out and evaluate and give their opinion. Okay, and our next is another couple of birch trees. There are 2 trees at this location. This is in kind of the landscaped area near 2236 Swarthmore. The larger of the 2 trees is, about 95% dead. Again, it's kind of hard with this photo, just because of all the other trees in the area, but that particular tree maybe has 1 or 2 live branches. The rest of the tree is dead. I did notice a little bit of fungal growth at the base of this tree and the second tree, which is closer to the home in the next picture. Again, that would be the second tree. And again, both trees are dead or dying.
Well,
Yes.
I have a question. Just because I know the homeowner is going to ask me, I know you're recommending a replacement tree. Are we talking a smaller tree like a Japanese maple or what?
Yeah, I would say to stay consistent with that area. And because there are several other large redwoods and liquid amber, it probably isn't a great location to install a larger tree. So a smaller ornamental would be more suitable for that location.
What about a crepe myrtle?
I think it's too shady for a crepe myrtle.
When you say ornamental, are you talking like 3 feet high or 10 feet high or 12 feet high?
The ornamentals are considered in that, like, I would say, I guess between 5 and 15 feet would be a small, that would be a small tree, because even Japanese maples have the potential to get 15 feet or larger, even though they're considered on the smaller side of trees. So it all depends on how that tree takes to that particular location. But I would say a smaller tree would be more suitable to that location.
But do some of those little ones, do they ever get above 5 feet? They're pretty little.
Yeah, there are some, actually the next tree that we're talking about on the report is a dogwood that's planted in that area. It's been in that area for quite a while, and it hasn't performed. So if we go to the next slide, this would be our next tree. So this little small dogwood's in that same landscaped area, and that tree has been in that area, I believe, for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
At least. 4 years.
Yeah,
4 years.
with coast, with that in, isn't it 4 years? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
and it hasn't performed at all. And that's partly, well, it's due mostly to the fact that this tree was either planted too deep at planting, or the tree settled and became settled too far beneath the soil, and the soil has constricted the ability for the tree to pass nutrients between the root and the crown. And so it's kind of been constricted at that root flare level. So that would be the main reason why this tree hasn't performed. But the other part of it is more than likely just the shaded area and the amount of roots from other large competing trees in the area. But that tree in particular, I believe it was like 4 inches below soil.
Yeah.
Just on eyeball check when we were digging out how far that tree was either, like, again, planted incorrectly or settled over time. But it hasn't performed, so. But dogwoods are going to be a slower grower.
That area, do we have to replace it with a tree, or can we put a shrub in there? Because
I mean, that would be to the preference of the grounds committee. I mean, you could go back with another dogwood, another Japanese maple in those areas. Those trees should perform with those growing conditions.
I mean, that's something you and Jim can look at, and so come up also with a decision.
Yeah, this is just a photo of the darker mark. You can see where the lighter color on the bark, and then the darker areas where the soil was. And we dug down, and it was still a little bit further beneath the soil as to where that root flare on that tree actually started. So that tree was just planted way too deep, or it had settled over time. It looks like it was planted too deep initially. Yeah, our next tree is a liquid amber. This is also in the Swarthmore roundabout. This tree sustained a major damage from the big pine tree that failed during the storm. Based on the damage that it sustained and what's left on the tree, it's no longer a viable or safe structurally to maintain it. We have no way to prune this tree back to a shape that we can actually maintain safety on this tree.
Paul, I have a question, because I know I did, and I know my neighbors did. We had a wrong tree. We thought that the tree that was coming down was the redwood.
Oh, no.
With the canopy this got from the tree falling down, it fell on that. But it's not, it's this one.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotta tell those people.
Yeah, the redwood, I mean, it lost some limbs when that pine came down, but the liquid amber took the brunt of that tree falling. And like I said, with what's left on the canopy, there's nothing that we can prune back to maintain form and structural integrity on that tree. Here we have another birch tree. Again, there's maybe 1 or 2 live branches on this tree. So again, a dead tree, we'll recommend removal. Our next item is okay, so this is hackberry. This is outside of 1026 Vanderbilt. Another tree that had a major failure during the January storm, and what's left on this tree is unsavable, unsalvageable at this point, without either doing a major pruning to this tree, which I couldn't guarantee the viability of survival. And based on the wound that the failure created on the tree, that just for safety, this tree should be removed. And that's our last removal recommendation. You can see here that the largest stem was the stem that failed. And then what's left are two main branching attachment. One leans to the house, the other leans over the driveway area, but both of those are attached with an inclusion at the attachment point. So again, it would be major reduction in the amount that would have to come out to even feel comfortable with retaining this tree. I would still lean towards that there's a potential that this tree would continue to fail. So removal is the recommendation there. Okay, and then we'll move into the pruning recommendations. This tree is along Commons. It's an English oak. We're going to prune this tree for some structural development by reducing some of the longer, lower branching to help promote a strong central leader and good branching. Another tree that we're going to address this year, we're looking again, liquid ambers, the cedars, all of these trees are, because they're some of the largest trees in the community, we want to make sure that we're always looking at these trees, upper canopy and how we can reduce weight to reduce the potential for limb failure. So we want to reduce the crown on the liquid amber, and that is an entire pruning throughout the canopy, reducing height and width of that canopy to pull in the branches and reduce some of that end weight. And then the tree right next to it is our next line item. It's that small live oak off to the right. And it's because that liquid amber has shaded the tree on one side of the tree, it's pushed a lot of growth over the home. So we want to do some weight reduction on that tree and provide a little bit of structural direction for that live oak. Okay, and we have this small willow oak. I believe part of this tree also sustained a little bit of damage during the storm. Hard to see in the picture, but the very top of the tree, that very top portion died back. So we're going to reduce that and do some structural pruning throughout the canopy to reestablish a central leader on this tree. So hopefully we'll pull it back and create a new top for that guy. In our next line, again, because we're looking at trees that have failure potential, codominance in the redwoods has always been a failure that we've seen throughout the community. So we're really looking at aggressively reducing these codominants. And so this is one that is outside of 2266. It's got multiple codominants, so we're going to go through and do some reduction to eliminate or subordinate some of those codominant tops to help prevent failure. This is just another view of the top of that tree. We've been using a drone to try to get a little bit closer view of the inclusions at the codominants. This is another tree with a codominant top. This is up at the top of the tree. You can see where those branches are attached and almost like a disc kind of feature right there at the point of attachment. So these are the features that we tend to see failure in these codominants. So getting up there, and in this case, we'll probably be removing one of these tops altogether. just above where that attachment point is. We're going to look for the strongest of the two of those leads and remove the weaker side and allow that stronger lead to take over as the dominant top. In this case, this tree may look a little bare at the top after that work is done, but it will push back new growth. And this is just the same tree, just a view from the ground with my phone zoomed in. So it looks a little bit different with the drone getting up a little closer and actually being able to see some of those inclusions a little bit better. So we're gonna get better at piloting that drone so that we can get a little more insight with what's going on with some of the tops of these trees. So here we have a trident maple. Again, we're gonna work on redirecting some growth and establishing a good central lead. So you can see how a portion of the canopy wants to pull to the left of this tree. So we're gonna subordinate those branches and encourage some growth to push more straight up rather than over to the side. So be some redirect pruning there. And again, another redwood tree. There's actually 3 trees at this location that we're gonna address with multiple included tops. So again, getting in these redwoods and working on reducing or removing codominance where we can to reduce the instance of that feature having a failure in a storm event. And here we have another liquid amber, and this is outside of 2267 Swarthmore. Again, you can see that upper part of the canopy really heavy. So the idea here with these liquid ambers is we want to do an aggressive reduction. We want to pull the top of that tree down. This isn't topping a tree, but we're going to actually reduce it down to leads on the tree that can take over without really altering, the look and shape of the tree altogether. But it is going to be a dramatic reduction. We want to take, at least 20 feet of that upper canopy down, reduce that sail on that tree to prevent some limb failure. Yes.
Are you going to leave you're not going to take away, it's got the 2 leaves, you're going to leave one, or are you going to?
Yeah, we're not gonna remove one of those leads, but what we're gonna do is up at the very top of the tree, work on that whole upper crown and reducing it down to a lower level. About, I'd say, where if we could see where that pointer is, it's somewhere. It's gonna be a new top's gonna be up around that area, and we're gonna pull that tree down. So it's really reducing that height and the ability for that tree to catch a lot of wind, where we see. Especially with liquid ambers, they get really heavy and they're aggressive, and they can have a limb failure there. So it's really reducing that and then going through and adjusting any other heavier areas of the canopy. So at this location, I have 2 trees near the same. So they shared a picture. One is a redwood, again, with multiple codominants. We're going to do some reduction on those codominants. And then the cedar right next to it sustained some damage during the storm in January. So we're going to go through and, again, probably a bit of reduction on that upper part of the tree to pull that. There's that one branch that wants to stick straight up. So we're going to come in here and reduce that limb down, clean up what's been broken, and do a little bit of end weight tipping on some of those longer limbs as we work our way down through the canopy of that tree to prevent limb failure. Again, another liquid amber. You can see that upper canopy again. This would be a tree that we would look to reduce about 15 to 20 feet of that upper canopy, and then adjust as we work our way down to match the lower branching. Okay, and we have cedars. Again, cedars are a tree that, you know, after everything earlier this year, we're really taking a harder look at and wanting to do some more end weight reduction on these three trees. These three trees I've looked at several times. There are a couple homeowners in this area that have requested us to look at these trees. I do believe some weight reduction work in the upper part of the canopy would be beneficial to these trees. Again, red, hard to see with this picture because it's so full, but there another tree with some codominant tops in there we want to reduce. And this is a younger valley oak, and this is in the Greenbelt area, in that Swarthmore Greenbelt area. And this is a younger tree, and you can see up at the top where we're starting to have 3 different leads up there. And so this would be a tree while it's young that we want to adjust the growth on those 3 competing leads to create one central dominant lead and reduce the potential for there to be included branching as this tree continues to get bigger and get older, and reduce, you know, pruning costs of this tree down the line. Excuse me. And again, this is another redwood tree. You can see sort of in that circle area, you can see a couple codominants poking through the canopy there. So again, these smaller codominants, we would look to either remove altogether or reduce them down. And then we have another cedar tree. This tree is at 1206 Vanderbilt. It was another tree that did have a limb that came down during January. You can see some of these really long overextended branches. So coming into the canopy, working on the branch ends, reducing that canopy to take some of the pressure off the end of that branch to help stabilize the branch and prevent limb failure. And again, we have another redwood tree. This redwood did have a codominant that failed. I don't believe this one failed at the storm earlier this year, but it was one that happened previous years. But again, we're going to go up there and we're going to clean up that last codominant up there, clean up where the break is, and adjust some of the branching up at the top so we can kind of reshape and restructure the top of this tree. And again, another cedar tree. This tree, because of the other trees in the area, has directed most of its growth right over the top of this home. So again, coming out and doing some branch reduction, taking some weight out of the canopy that wants to push out over the home. And that's it.
Just one, I noticed that the cedar tree, the last item 23 and 25, the same tag number, is that correct? Or is it? One is 1206 Vanderbilt, 3415 tag number, and then the other one is 1146.
I think that was a typo there at because the 1146 Vanderbilt and 1206, the 2 different trees. The tag number, I think, got typo there on the tag number outside of.
So which one would be the typo? Would it be 1206?
It'd be the 1146
6.
Vanderbilt.
So it's a different number there.
Yeah, it could be a different tag number. I'll have to recheck the tag on that.
Okay.
I looked at one of those tags today and one of them had been scratched off and you couldn't see what it was. So that could be part of the confusion.
That's the case with a majority of the tree tags. The squirrels use them to sharpen their teeth. So a lot of them are pretty incoherent at this point. I would definitely think, to create maybe a digital inventory might be the way to go going forward, so that the squirrels can't vandalize the tree numbers.
Okay, but we've got quite a number which says no tag. So I just want to just make sure that this is an incorrect number in here. So the cedar for 1146. Okay, any questions for Paul?
I have two questions. First, I really appreciate the fact that you put the safety assessments on tree removal in the first tier. Is there any way that you might think about the pruning recommendations in some priority? I know that we've developed for other reasons a 1 through 5 mechanism, 1 being the most urgent, 5 being the least, so that we could get some sense of what is occurring here other than a need to prune. That would be my first request. And my second request, and this may be to the chair, do we have costs associated with each of these recommendations?
Yes, and I believe we are putting that up on this. We have the proposal for that, yeah, so we can take a look.
Is it possible to receive a copy of that?
Yeah, it will be. We're doing that just as soon as we finish the report. As you can see, it's on here, Grove proposal on the agenda.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the tree walk is that's the idea of the tree walk, is to look and to address the hazards in the trees as we see them. And that's the reason why we're recommending the pruning on the tree. So I would say that is the priority. Those trees that end up on this report are on the report because the pruning is needed to prevent, a limb failure. And so I wouldn't necessarily, it'd be hard to say in that sense what would be priority, because,
I'm thinking, Paul, that you've got some tree balancing issues, but you also have some codominant issues, and you cited 1 or 2 where those tops just got whacked off for whatever reason, came down and really created some severe damage.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, is there a way to take a look at codominance or other factors and say, hey, this is of the recommendations or the severity, I'd put a 1 or an A on this batch, or a B or a C on these.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking. So, I mean, there's going to be a tremendous amount of money involved in this.
Right.
And how to prioritize and match expenditure with severity of risk.
Yeah, that starts to get into, if I list a tree as this is a priority, and then we leave out another tree and that tree fails, how are we,
There's something called an act of God. I'm just trying to
I'm putting them
understand.
on the report because this is the work that we're seeing in the field that needs to be addressed. So, yeah.
Just my opinion, you pay me now, you pay me more later. You pay me now for what the proposal is, or you pay me more later. It'll cost more later to take care of the problem that's addressed here.
You mean if it's moved from a different area? I
If
mean,
it's
yes,
moved
you-
from
if you're
this
going
year,
from- No, but I think what Jim is trying to say is not moved from different time period, but if you're doing work in Vanderbilt on 1146, then do you move over to 1231 and do that? So would that be more, is that cost effective, or was that be more expensive than if I'm following what you're trying to say here?
As well, Paul, as I wasn't thinking of a potential liability issue associated with recommendation, just an assessment of, hey, this is only the second zone that's been done. We got several more to go.
Right.
And that number is going to get larger and larger and larger. And assuming we have a certain amount of money to go around, if we had to make hard choices at the board level or even recommendations at the committee level, how would we go about assessing that? That's the same way that chair has set up an assessment for a beautification as an alternative to actually needing to repair for infrastructure and potential down the road issues. And so that's really what I was trying to get at.
I guess I look at the ground level bushes and stuff differently than I look at the trees.
True, but there's a precedent that's been set based on need and risk, and that's all I was trying to get to. And I wasn't thinking liability, God, if I didn't put that one on the
Yeah.
list, what are you guys going to do to me? Nothing like that at all.
Yeah, I would say to get more of an in-depth, we're looking at more of like a risk assessment type level of viewing the trees, which I would need more time on site to actually go through the trees individually and assess the level of risk in each tree to determine, mitigation levels of, A, B, and C level type of work. So that would it would require a bit more time for me to actually go through and look at those.
So
those
you're
trees on that.
taking 2 hours right now, let's say, to come up with when we on site. So
Right.
how would you add it if you were to look at it in a different view, from a different point of
And
view?
that would be actually, doing a trial run and seeing how
see.
that would look, because, we got a zone like this in, I prioritize, this year's work, we're definitely going a bit more aggressive than we have in years past, with the tree walks and the amount of trees that we're adding to the report, just based on the sheer, amount of tree related issues that we had with the January event. So we are a bit more aggressive than this year, with the amount of trees that we're looking at. But again, all the trees that we're looking at have a need for work to be done in the canopy. So that would be, again, to try to do a trial run with pruning. Again, we're bringing in a drone, and I'm coming in at a different time to look at a lot of these codominants to see, the severity of some of those tops, which it just takes a bit more time to determine, what is going to be an A level need to what maybe might be a C level need.
Well, when we start taking a look at what may approach $500,000 for mitigation and repair, it might be worth it to invest another half day's worth of assessment. Again, just going into simple categories so that those of us that are not expert could get some sense of, if we had limited dollars, where would we put them first? That's
Mhm.
all I'm asking.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the difference between the 3 months when we do the pruning of trees throughout which is part of the contract, which we have, right? March, April, and May, when you go
Yeah.
around. What is the difference of pruning then to when you do the zone walk?
So we have our annual pruning where we have the crews go through and we're maintaining all of the clearance, required clearances from your building. So over your walkways, over your structures, we're going through and we're trying to address immediate things. Like if there's a broken limb that's up in that tree, that comes out. If it's a dead limb over a pathway or over a roof, those are coming out. If there's growth, the annual growth coming down over pathways, over lights, over the houses, that work is what we're doing, as we go through the community. So it's not the kind of level of, we're going to go up in the top of one of these large liquid ambers and reduce that entire tree canopy, which is, a lot
Right.
more time consuming.
So some of the trees here, which we have, let's say, pruning here, that is not possible to have been done, for instance, on the annual tree pruning.
We wouldn't be able to get through the entire community with the amount of trees that we have.
One more comment, not, just to add to the level of knowledge or observation. A lot of the codominants that was in this report here were on redwoods. And that codominance occurred 20 or 30 years ago. The work wasn't done then. There was at least, I think it was one maple in here that I don't know how old it was, 10 years or something, but the picture showed three primary branches going up. And Paul's recommendation was he's going to take two of those out of there. So that's us paying the price today to avoid a price 10 or 20 years from now. So the codominance of the big lake redwoods is we're paying the price for the work that wasn't done, as I say, 20 years ago. But work that still needs to be done.
Well, I agree that work still needs to be done, but maybe some could be moved to next year, Dawn. That's not as critical. I take Jim's point to heart. There's a lot more codominance this year. And I agree that they need to come out. I'm not disagreeing with anything that's been put on the list. I just think that if we had to push for next year, it wouldn't probably, it doesn't mean we're pushing it for 10.
So that goes back to what Jim was been saying is what is the more important, which is a security issue, and is there any, so, and that's what you are looking at. It's exactly.
Basically a knockoff of what you've done with the beautification program versus infrastructure repair.
Right.
Same thing, just yet a broad brush. If we're to take a look at, I'm not trying to fly down into the weeds. I'd like something at maybe 1,000 or 2,000 feet to get a general feeling, because we got a large campus.
Yeah.
And if we had some kind of general A, B, or C, and codominance may be in the A's, absolutely. But that would be, I defer to Paul as much as he'd say, guys, this is really something, that should be there.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we could definitely look at. I mean, if we were to take this report and you're to ask me what's an A, B, or C level, I would say, well, right now, the immediate would be the codominant redwood tops would be your A level priority. One, because we've had large failures from that. That is a consistent failure that we see throughout the community. And the flip side to that being a priority A is, in most cases, once that work is done, that's not going to be something that is going to be done over and over again. Once we subordinate or remove that codominant, now it may be case by case. Some of these redwoods have multiple, 3 or 4 codominants, and that might be, well, we can only do so much reduction on that one tree for the health of that tree. But some of those that we showed that had the 2, prominent codominants, we reduce one, that's the end of that work. That's not going to be a cost that's going to jump back out at the community. Now, we look at some of those liquid ambers, maybe that would be kind of a B level, maybe even a C level, depending on the location of that tree. If it's a tree that's not over a house structure, maybe that's more of that C level. But again, maybe some of those cedar trees that are over the top of a roof, that could be, that would be that fine line, high B, low A.
Yeah.
So
Do you have a record of, for instance, when you've pruned these trees? When the last,
my record would be from past reports and work orders and just my experience in the community. We've done quite a bit of reduction on a majority of the liquid ambers throughout the community. There's that row along Commons. We did major reduction on those trees, I want to say 2019. And again, with our big storm that came through, we didn't have any failures on liquid ambers, but those have been a tree in the past that we have seen that kind of failure on there. Now, we had a lot of cedar issues, and cedars haven't historically been a lot of trees that we've been aggressively trying to prune. So this year, we're looking at cedars a little different, but their growth rate is going to be a lot slower than that of the liquid ambers. So going through and doing a reduction pruning on a lot of the cedars, that might be a cost that again, you're not going to see the same level of cost down the road because they're a much slower growing tree than say your liquid ambers. So again, you'll see the cost now is on some of these trees is not going to remain the same as you keep moving and moving forward.
And clearly your costing is, I mean, you've got that all, I mean, you're familiar with that. But I noticed if you go down to the end of this proposal, what we have there is the wood green waste fee, then the crane service at the bottom, and then the arborist report. What about, just a question, like crew hours or hourly rates or anything like that? Is that in there or not? Or is that part of it? Or
Yeah,
I mean, how many hours, for instance? Yeah.
So we have a breakdown of the hours. So each of those lines represents crew hours essentially
Uh-huh.
in dollar amount. And then the green wood waste fee is the accumulation.
So is there any way of actually putting that in a proposal like we do with landscaping? We have the whole details there. I mean, or is that something?
We could
or
add in.
does that make it more complicated? Yeah.
Plus you guys have.
Oh,
the
hang on.
breakdown.
Yeah.
Also, you guys have the breakdown on the cost for the tree work.
Where?
Are you saying that the hourly rate or the rate we're paying for grounds is the same as for the tree work?
We have a
Crew
different,
level?
our tree rate is different than the landscape
So
rate.
I'm just wondering, is that in a proposal, would it be? I mean, I think it would be sort of informative because obviously we know equipment is required here.
Correct.
I'm just wondering about crew hours, how many crew members, how many hours? And I think the board must have agreed upon some sort of an hourly rate, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So,
we,
I mean, that's just to give us some ideas because it's kind of tough to recommend approval of a proposal to the board when we don't really have that information. And I think that's more on the board side to decide something like that than us. I mean, we can look at the report, we can look at your report and we can say, yes, that's great, we recommend it. But I kind of feel that I personally feel that it's tough for me to say, yes, hey, we agree with this proposal without knowing what the board has actually agreed on and what the hours are and what the hourly rate is, et cetera. I mean, you've been very clear, for instance, on this, and I know you've got all that. So it's just, I don't know, Cheryl, what you feel on that.
We can utilize the basically the same type of proposal we submit with basically man hours and rates. So basically we have that in place. It's just more about putting that information on that proposal, but we have all that being set up.
How do you all feel about that, of getting some more information on these,
Yes, and I think one thing that stands out for Paul's, under Paul's umbrella is that if we're getting into tree topping and managing codominance, we're going to be using some fairly heavy duty equipment to get people up there. And that would be nice to be added to the manpower assessment or per job. Hey, maybe there's an asterisk that says, you know, I don't know what you call those things, but you know, a high lift or something like that required so that we can get some sense of what the cost of, you know.
well, we have it there, the crane service, it's 8,400
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
so we've
seen
got that, but I'm just more looking at
Per
just,
job though.
yeah, just looking at, you know, how many crew members, what the hourly, but are we supposed to even know that at our level on the committee is what I'm trying to say here.
Well, we
Well,
can.
so my,
That's, yeah,
my-
so.
my
yeah.
input on that is that I'm going to remind everybody that the committee's role here is to provide a recommendation to the board. Contract formation, breakdown of costs, that is not something that should be discussed in this committee meeting, but you can make a recommendation to the board that they request a breakdown from the company.
That's right. And that's because I feel that our job here is to recommend the report and say, yes, we've done this, the zone stewards have been there, the respect for the respective zones, but to say that we recommend this, but we can actually suggest to the board that we feel that this needs to be added to a proposal.
Yeah, so I mean, the cost of the work is based on a labor rate that we've submitted to Nepenthe. So we don't work outside of the labor rate we submit, but I can easily add a man-hour number to like the end of this report to say, hey, it's gonna, here's the report, here's the cost, this is the breakdown of the man hours. Now, in terms of, our chipper and the bucket truck, that's included in your rate. So outside of a crane, which is, we don't own a crane, so that would be something we would subcontract. I will include that cost of the crane service.
What I
but-
was asking for.
Yeah, but your typical crew is going to come, like the rate that we use for Nepenthe includes the cost of our equipment that we own and we come on site with. So that's your chipper, that's your the truck that they come in, the equipment that they're going to use on site. That's included in our labor rate. So that would be there. Outside of the green waste, which again, green waste, over the past few years has fluctuated dramatically with the amount that we are paying to dispose of the green waste. And so as that fluctuates, that green waste fee also fluctuates.
Final comment. I wasn't trying to muscle in on the costs and then down in the weeds and just trying to make a recommendation based on cost as much as I am most interested in an ABC triage in a sense of urgency. And I do think that's a fair request that could be made by this committee, and then let the labor rates or the costs required to mitigate or address those A, Bs, or Cs could be something that could be handled in another setting.
Yeah, and I think then that goes back to what Dusty is saying, because I think our job is to say, hey, look at the report and then to make recommendations on that report. And then the actual proposal should be handled by the board and how they want to move forward. I don't know, Cheryl, what you think.
Well, certainly, at least with this current board, having that level of detail helps make decisions to be able to look at it and say, all right, the total book is 55,000. To be left with reject or accept kind of ties people's hands. So if we had a sense, and I'm speaking just as myself because I haven't discussed this with the board, but certainly being able to look at something and saying what's maybe the rating would include what's the impact if we don't do the structural pruning. I mean, if we could have a category, so you've got some of them that you're talking about structural pruning. Is that going to create a problem next year or 5 years from now? Or if you're going to do some reduction, which ones are the most critical to do right now, so that the board could look at it and say, all right, we're going to do this level and not this level. That would be helpful. I realize it would make your proposal process a little bit more complicated, but it certainly would help make decisions.
One of the things that we asked Paul to do on our zone walk was to put in sequence the removal of trees, so that like the top 10, top 12 would seem to me that would be pretty important to do removal, as opposed to you got a tree removal, then you got 3 canopies, and then you got a tree removal. This way, everybody could see that these are the problems that we have. They're dead. They're going to chance they could fall over, So that I'm just want to say that I think he did what he was supposed to do, that we asked him for was to categorize the importance of the trees first.
No, that's absolutely right. We're just looking at it from the point of view of how do we approve, I guess, since we don't have all the information as far as the breakdown of costs are concerned, but the board does. Can we just look at the report and make a recommendation as far as the report is concerned? And perhaps not make a recommendation on the proposal? That's all. Or does, and let the board decide that? Or how do the other committee members feel about that? Or do you want to go ahead and actually approve this, to approve the proposal? Because that's, I'm feeling I don't think it's really should be in our sort of pay scale to do that, because we have a lot more information on landscaping. We know exactly, but as far as trees are concerned, I think firstly, I think getting a priority perhaps would be a good way of doing it, but we don't know what the hourly rate is. We don't know what you as the board have said anything, but if we can say, hey, we like this, we're making some sort of recommendation as far as the report is concerned, and then you obviously as the board makes the decision whether you want to move forward or not.
So what we're discussing, perhaps, let me restate what I'm understanding, is that this committee would approve the report. That yes, you agree all this work needs to be done, but the proposal would be up to the board to determine if they wanted it in full or in part.
That depends also how the committee members feel about that. How do you all feel? I mean, we obviously, we're with Paul, we absolutely agree that this needs to be done. We all agree that we've been on that walk. We spent 2 hours with him, and we know this work needs to be done. And so we are agreeing with it, but at the same time, the costing, we don't know.
Christina?
Yeah.
I could have a revised proposal sent over with a breakdown of man hours included on that. And I could put an A, B, or C level on that and just put that on there. I mean, that's something I can include on.
Okay, now the same thing we had before also with landscaping. So if you put an A, B, and C, let's say we go with the A and we're saying no to the C, does that change anything on the costing then?
Well, it would. So
Yeah.
some of the like the use of the crane, we may be using that crane to utilize that service for both an A or a B service. So that would adjust that cost. Because if we had to hire a crane 2 different times, as opposed to we hire the crane one time to come in to address several trees, then we're adding additional costs.
I think that may be at board level, again, a discussion, how to move forward on that. Sure, John.
So
Just a quick count here of off of this page. And Paul was asked to put the removals up on top and stuff, which he's done. But just counting here, there's 7 removals. There's 7 codominant. There's 7 reduction. And there's 4 structural prune. And that's the total of the whole package. So maybe that helps break it down. 25 and 7, 7, 7, and 4 is 25. And if that helps.
What is your point?
Just another way of looking at it to help break it down into perhaps importance.
I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. And to address what Cheryl had mentioned, you know, I am reluctant to take a look at $55,000 and say yes or no. I just, you know, I can't do that. But if I understood a little more in the context of what is the not relevant, what is the most important from a risk assessment standpoint, it would help me go to yes, which I don't think there's any question that this work needs to be done. And we spent some time talking about that. But if we had to choose the most important, and then as to Don's point, yeah, it's starting to move in that direction. But we're only one of, God knows, 7 zones, I
We have
guess.
7 zones, I know. And so this is adding up to it, but that's again where I feel a little bit hesitant because I don't have the breakdown. I don't know what exactly the board has agreed to, what the hourly rate is and how many, you know, crew members, et cetera. Just a little bit more detail. I think the work has to be done, but I think it's not for us really to send this to the board and say, we recommend this proposal, but we do recommend what is been said in the report.
Yes.
What would
And-
happen if we speeded up the rest of the tree walks instead of doing one a month? Then that way you could see the entirety of what's happening in the whole neighborhood versus onesie twosie at a time. And because you don't know what's coming.
Well, I think that's up to Grove, how they wanted to do that. Correct, Paul? I mean, I think that's again, did you make the decision with the board management? How did this happen with the tree walks monthly? Was that something that was, who came up with that?
Well, the tree walks came up several years ago between Betsy and myself as an idea to have a little more, allow some more access as to why we're doing the work that needs to be done, and to address the trees in a level that helps to care for them in a more comprehensive way. So
Understand.
that's
yeah.
where that initially came from.
Yeah.
Now, how we've been approaching it has been kind of year to year. There's been a year where I've walked every single zone and put together, a report. But I think the way that it came about is it takes a couple hours to walk each zone and look at that. It also takes several hours for me to compile these reports and put them together. I don't mind taking time to do that, but that is quite a bit to manage all 7 zones. We could take a bigger bite at a time, but now we're also wanting to look more in depth at certain trees. I would really have to look at how this is going to affect my time,
Right.
and how I
Yeah.
can balance that with getting all this
So
stuff in.
that was initially, so it works best for you to do it monthly because of the time. But I think again, that might be again where the board steps in and sort of, we can make a recommendation that we would like, but then it would be up to Grove and the board, I guess, to see how they want to move forward. But yeah, so we can, that's exactly, so that way,
And the other part of it was breaking it down by zone allowed us to get approvals on a chunk of work, schedule that work, get that work done, and then take on another bite. Whereas if we were to get this whole big piece come in schedule wise to try to keep all that, to get all that stuff done, by the time we get an approval, that starts to complicate our ability to get things done in a timely manner.
I don't have my notes from last month, but I do have that the Grove, that there was a proposal put forth for Zone 1 for $46,580. I don't know how many trees that involved, that were cited to be removed.
I believe it was about 4. I believe about 4.
Or I don't know
Yeah.
how many trees total.
Oh,
like-
okay.
Don was just saying, I think it was 30 trees now we have for Zone 2 that you figured out.
Zone 2 is much bigger than Zone 1.
Yes, no, but I'm just saying, it seems to me that we should be submitting, this is what we did. We walked, Paul was there, we should be sending it to the board. Now, my problem is that I feel that so many members on this committee have been on this committee for a number of years, and they really know what's going on. When we have a board that's every 2 years, it makes me feel that if I'm giving all this responsibility to the board, they may not know what they're doing. And we've had this with some of the landscaping. Nah, we don't need that. Yeah, we'll take this one. Yeah, we'll spend 55,000 here, but we're not going to spend 13,000. It makes me very nervous to say we're going to put all the responsibility on the board.
Well, they have to be involved. They have to be responsible because they have been involved with the contract negotiations and the costing there, Diane. So it's not for us. We have to follow what we are supposed to be doing. And I think what we're saying is that we went on the zone walk. We did one on zone 1, zone 2 now, and we absolutely agree with what Paul is saying. But as far as the costing is concerned, since we don't have all that information, it is kind of not for us to recommend the approval of this proposal, since we don't really have the details on, what the board has decided. The board has to make the ultimate decision. The board will, in any case, make the decision, but we are saying that we agree with the report.
But if we had the zone 1 proposal, we submitted it to the board. It seems to me, you've got the zone 2, submit it to the board. We have zone 3 when the tree walk comes, submitted to the board. Maybe in between that times, looking for different ways to coordinate activities. If you have a tree that has to have a big high lift and this one, maybe you could do, how many can we do in a day? If we're doing all in one, can we do 3 in a day? So we can only we can
Okay.
pay for that. There's a lot of these questions that are.
Okay.
I
so
think they're beyond our scope.
I understand. So what we can do right now, I think to wrap this up, is to say, okay, we've got the proposals, it's on the agenda, we've reviewed it. Now what we can say, does anyone want to move? We have to wait now for Jim to be back.
I have another question. I'm
Yes,
just
oh,
going to throw
good.
this
Go
out
ahead.
there. Is there any way that because we're seeing how much damage climate is doing, that we can have separate budgets for grounds and trees?
Well, we have separate reserve allocations for grounds and trees.
If we had a reserve tracker, we could see that.
Yes, we do have, I keep one on my work order as tracker, but we do have separate reserve allocations for landscaping and for trees and irrigation. So what we're going to do right now, Jim, since you were out, is we're going to, it's on the agenda. We have a proposal here for $55,360. I'm going to ask, does anyone want to move to recommend to the board what's the wording? Does anyone want to recommend approval of this proposal to the board? Anyone want to move that? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Everybody? I'm a no. Sorry? Nina, what?
Hang on, I would vote to do it if we have a caveat that they need to look at priorities, how they want to
Well,
prioritize the
Yeah,
trees.
but they won't do this, which means we would have to get a new proposal. But right now, working on this proposal, we've got a motion to say yes from Diane, second from Don Lanslittle. Kathy Waugh has said yes. I have said no. Dawn has abstained or no? No, Dawn is a no. You're a yes? Okay, did you, okay. Yes.
Is it possible to seek an amendment to the proposal that would allow Paul to put in an A, B, and C concept and not change the dollar amount?
But we have to go with this proposal right now, today, to send to the board. Now we can ask, we can make a recommendation that this is what we would like, and we would send that to, we would put that in the minutes.
It's all about how you want to word this recommendation. That's pretty much
Yeah.
what you're voting on. You're deciding what your recommendation is going to be for the board. Ultimately, they are going to review this proposal, regardless of your recommendation. They will review it in their next meeting. But if you have any suggestions on how you want them to review it, if you want them to review it, I mean, basically the recommendation is up to you as a committee.
Is it possible for us then to put into context a yes, but concept, this is our recommendation? Yes,
No,
but we
well,
Make a
recommend.
suggestion to the board.
You can, that we can, a suggestion we can put in the minutes, but what we're looking at here is, right, we have a proposal here for $55,000 plus. What we're saying is, what the motion was that to recommend from Diane was to recommend this proposal to the board for approval. It was seconded by Don. And we've had one yes. You're a no, abstention. Dawn is a no, I'm a no, and you're a no? You're what? You're a no. You're abstaining, okay. And Nina?
I'm a no.
Okay. So that motion does not carry.
Okay. To follow,
Does not
to
pass.
follow
Now,
on to
we can
Jim.
do, now we can,
So what you're saying, what by, and I'm just trying to understand just for my own,
Yeah.
personal notes. So the committee is not recommending the approval of this proposal.
unless. we
As
should-
is.
As is,
As is, okay.
correct.
Okay, are you going to include the stipulations that you would like the board to consider?
Yes, and that's
Okay.
what we should, so that did not, so we should do a second motion here of saying that, you go ahead, Jim, that's the one you want to have.
Do you want to use that breakdown that I offered?
I'm sorry, Don, I do not have that
No,
information.
no, we were talking about the categories, A, B, and C.
Yes, I would prefer, I would recommend, I would move.
Yeah.
That the proposal as it's presented, add an A, B, C triage or risk assessment to the individual work items or scopes of work that have been broken out by Paul. So that we have an overall assessment of what is most important to what may be the Bs or perhaps those that can be, the work that can be deferred. Now, how you capsulize that,
That means you're saying you're going to have three different proposals, a proposal for A, a proposal for B, and a proposal for C. Yes, that's what you're saying. You want three different.
I want a risk assessment that would allow us to very simply understand what is most important, what is next, and what is third in one single, easy to understand, rating. That's
And
all.
it's possible that the board will approve all of that as well. They will take, I mean, so that they will might approve the whole proposal, but at least they know what the level is. And so they can advise the homeowners if necessary, and they've got that. Yeah.
Let me just add something. You realize if Paul breaks this down into three different categories, A, B, and C, that the sum of the total is not going to equal $55,000 because of his labor involved, et cetera. Having been involved in construction for many years, and they go back and we put off some this year and we're going to do it next year or whatever, labor cost, equipment cost, overhead, everything goes up. So this 55 could be 75 or 65,
So,
whatever.
yeah.
But I guess that's the gamble and the risk we take.
That-
If this is approach we decide to live with.
But I think that's why I think what we should do, that's why I feel that as a committee, we shouldn't really be, I think, approving a proposal. I think that's the board, but we can approve the report. And then it's up to the board to decide how they want to move forward. That is what I think. I mean, we just look at the report, we agree with this report. And then the board actually has the information as far as what they agreed with Grove, as far as man hours and hourly rates, et cetera, which doesn't really concern us. And I'm thinking that way. And then that way, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that way Cheryl then is as a liaison will explain what it is. But right now we're not saying we're not approving this. We're not saying we don't want, we are not recommending really the proposal. I would rather just to say that we recommend we approve, review the report, and we are in agreement with the report. it is up to the board to decide how they want to move forward with the proposal. And then you as the liaison will explain what the committee is really talking about. But what we're saying is that it is the board's responsibility to approve this particular tree work proposal and maybe give a little bit more information on the proposal itself to indicate, you know, number of hours and what you have there, Paul. That's what I'm looking at.
What I'm hearing is the committee agrees the work needs to be done. The recommendation is to the board, if you're looking at this, you may have questions. How do you want Carson to, or Grove to respond and give us that information so that we as the board can make a decision about where we first want to spend our money? Is that a good summary?
Yes, that's
so-
exactly, yeah. So he's saying yes. He's saying
say
yes. He said yes. Because it's not for us, we are saying the work needs to be done. Yeah. Correct. That's exactly. So
Yeah.
that's what I want to say is that it is the tree work, the tree report is what we are having to look at. That's what we agree with. But with the proposal is really not our right to, we cannot really say yes or no to a proposal. It's the board.
The breakdown that I mentioned off of Paul's report, 7, 7, 7, and 5 or 4. Right there is 25. If you build a matrix to try and cover 4 different areas, just the ABC, I think I'm correct in saying that ABC gives you a 6 by 6 matrix. So you're going to have 36 bids that.
But we're not asking for that. It's really what we're trying to say.
I'm just saying, how are we clarifying this for them?
Okay, well, right now, we're not clarifying, I mean, Paul and Oscar don't need to, you know, be taking notes on any of this because ultimately they're going to work at the direction of the board and what I asked them to do on their proposals, you know, as a result of what the board requests. So right now, I think the committee just needs to get it, you know, on the same page of what suggestions you want to make to the board as it relates to this proposal and how it's written, how it's prepared. You can give suggestions and recommendations to the board. So if you're all in agreement that you would like to make those recommendations, that the board make those considerations, we could do that and move forward.
Yes, and I think that's exactly what we should be doing. And that's what we need. Nina, how do you feel? Can you?
I'm fine with that. And I think there's a proposal on the table from Jim.
What did you say? Sorry, didn't
I
hear.
thought there was a proposal from Jim.
Yes, but his was categorized, changing, but giving the levels, the priority levels for that. Is that what you'd like to have included and talk about that?
Not necessarily. I'm just saying there was
No,
a
exactly.
proposal on
So,
the table.
okay.
Sorry.
What Dusty just said, okay, we'll just.
I think as long as everybody is at least in agreement that you at least want this information put in the minutes and you
Yes.
want the board to review it, then
Yeah.
we're good. I
So-
don't know if we necessarily need a motion to
No.
move forward with that.
No,
We
yeah.
could just include the recommendations, the comments, you know, the ideas in your minutes, and then those will go
Yeah.
to the board. for
And I
their
think that's
review.
what I'll go ahead and do. And then we can work that with the board. Okay.
That way, the information is still getting to the board and it's still
Yes.
reflecting the committee's overall feeling and opinion and. the
Absolutely.
board can
And that
discuss.
we are working, and that's, I mean, even on the website, it says something somewhere, it says that the committee's role is to approve the report, not the proposal. And I think that's where we have a little bit of a hiccup here.
Right, but we still want the committee's thoughts, opinion. I mean, that's what the
Yeah,
committee
that
is
would
here
be
for,
put in,
right?
in the minutes.
So if, as long
And
as
then that
reflected
would
in the
be-
minutes, the board is going to review
Yes,
those minutes and
exactly.
discuss and.
Jim, does Jim still have something on the table here?
No, I'm in agreement with that. As long as the conversation can be transmitted to the board in some
It will be.
reasonable way. And
That's
again,
Cheryl's
my
job,
own-
yeah.
My only request was that I understand the priority of the work that's being
Yes.
recommended. That's the.
Okay, I'll get that in the minutes and we can figure it out. Yeah, okay, great. No, we don't need a motion on that, no. No, we've agreed that the work has to be done, and I'll put it in the minutes, and then we'll make recommendations as to what, as far as the proposal is concerned.
And
Well, we can do the report. Do we want, we all recommend, do we all approve the report? Do we make a motion for that then? Do you want to make a motion to approve the report?
To approve the report.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Okay. Okay, good. All right. So any further questions? Are we good? Okay. Okay, Zone Stewart comments. I think we've discussed this. Yes, no more. Yes. Okay. Homeowner comments. I guess we have no one there. So I guess we are adjourned.
the
Yes.
Zone 3 tree walk is going to be on the 31st.
Oh, before I end, also, I have to say that you have to, whoever wants to rejoin the grants committee, can you please fill applications out and hand them in to the office? Because then,
Stack of applications.
yeah, I believe the 24th, they need to be in, so around there, and then the new board will look at it and decide how. Yeah.
we'll stack them up
So
right
this, yeah, and there's also online, I believe, is it or not? No, maybe not. It is online, yeah. So, yeah, just hand that in for this coveted position. Yes.
All right, Zone 3 tree walk is Tuesday, the 30th. Because Monday is a holiday
Yeah,
this month.
but, okay, so now that brings
Tuesday the
us to
30th.
another point though, because the new board comes into session on the 24th, so they will not appoint the committee. Excuse, hold on a second. I just, can we, they won't be appointing the committee members on the 30th, so which means that the zone walk will be done obviously by you and Dusty and Cheryl, I guess. So because we don't have the committee members will not be appointed by then. No. So we won't have, so it'll be you and Dusty and Cheryl. Yeah. Maybe Friday off, Monday off.
Why don't you just postpone
Oh,
it?
that's Tuesday. That's right. That's Tuesday morning. Yeah.
Tuesday
Yeah.
the 30th.
Yeah. So that'll be zone 3 then.
Yeah, and I just wanted to give a quick update with the maintenance pruning. We still have 18 days left in our budget for the maintenance pruning. We have worked through zones 1 through 4. We're in zone 5 right now. We're going to work 5 and 7 with the remaining 18 days. So if you see Grove crews on site, that's what we're currently working on. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was up to date on that.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Oh, yes, yes, we are adjourned. Yes, then we had a discussion. We are now adjourned. Yes.
I have one zone committee comment. Wow.
Well, it's just.
No, I think.
Oh, one more question.